Bonjour, bonjour. Welcome everyone to this new live. I see we have Linda in the chat already. Bonjour, Linda. If you're here and you're watching right now, please say hello in the chat. Please say where you are from. This is the last time for this semester that we're having this weird schedule with, like, I think it's 2 p.m. right now, Eastern, and 11 a.m. Pacific. But next Sunday, my own time will change, and therefore we will be back onto the schedule that you knew before. So it will be 1 p.m. Eastern and 10 a.m. Pacific like before. So we have Yasmin here. Bonjour, Yasmin. Cool to have you back here. So today the topic is the differences between coach and teacher. And I found 11 differences. I quickly took notes this morning. I've never had this many notes for one of those lives. I hope that I will be able to convey this information in the 1 hour that we have. Of course, you're welcome to participate, to comment, to ask questions. And in fact, actually, I would love to hear your ideas on what is the difference between a coach and a teacher. Have you ever hired a coach, perhaps for something else? Like, you don't have to think only of language learning. You can think of other areas. The two areas where there is more coaching is fitness coaching and life coaching. So perhaps you have hired coaches in those areas, or you know people who work as coaches in those areas. And I would love to hear your ideas on what are the differences between teachers and coaches. I have found 11 areas that are different between a coach and a teacher. The name that we give to the student or client. Coaches tend to say client, and teachers tend to say student rather. I personally use those words indifferently. But so what the other person is called, what they call themselves, right? Teacher or coach, then the expertise and what their expertise is based on, the number of students that they have. A coach tends to have a lot less students than a teacher. The approach that they use to teaching and or coaching, the speed, like how fast the learning goes, the cost, the income of a coach or a teacher, the commitment or responsibility are also different, the kind of teaching program that they use, and their own approach to self-improvement. So that's 11 different areas. I'm pretty sure that I didn't find them all, but those are the ones that I found this morning when I was preparing for this live class, and perhaps I will find some more as I go today. So if you have any idea, like, tell me if you've ever hired a coach or if you have ever worked with a teacher. I'm sure you have worked with a teacher because you've been to school, right? And if I would have one goal for this live, it would be that to have you really understand deeply what a coach is. So I once heard this definition of a coach as being a vehicle. So a vehicle is something that takes you from where you are to where you want to go faster than you would have been able to do on foot. And that's exactly what a coach is. So a coach is someone who is hired to help you get some results faster than you would get by yourself. So I would love for you to think of what you could be a coach, in what area you could be a coach yourself. Because I hear a lot of people complaining that, oh, everyone is a coach these days. Like, there are coaches like sex coaches and parenting coaches and coach for, language learning coach. There are fitness coaches of all sorts, weight loss coach, wealth coach, you name it, right? If you know some kind of coaches that you've never heard of, that you've heard of, but I haven't listed, please, the comment section is here for you. And really, when you think about it, why would not everyone be a coach? Like, why would it be a problem that everyone be a coach? When you think about it, there are things that you have been successful with in your own life. And if you have been able to achieve this success for yourself and you are able to break it down for other people and to help those people get the results as well, then that would be some area that could be a coach in. So please use the comment section and tell me what you have been able to achieve and if you feel that you could help another people achieve this. So Linda is saying, I hired a coach for physical training. I needed to exercise to rehabilitate my body, and I had no idea where to begin because I never exercised. I didn't want to hurt myself or be ineffective. Yes, that is in essence. And please tell us how it went. Like, did you get the kind of results that you wanted? So because this is exactly the kind of situation where you would want to have a coach. The coach is the person who knows how to do these things which you want to do and knows how to avoid the pitfalls. So that is something really that you want to wrap your head around. It's like, this is what a coach is for, to help you get where you want to go faster, and on that way you want to avoid what could possibly go wrong, basically. Yasmin is saying, I'm a travel agent, but it's called a travel advisor. Coaching, I'm not sure. So you're not sure what kind of coach you could do, like what you could. I mean, I've never heard of a travel coach. That sounds a bit weird because there would need to be tangible results. So for example, like Linda said, for physical training, she needed to get her body, to rehabilitate her body to get in shape back again. And that is a tangible result. So in traveling, I'm not sure what kind of, but I mean, have you succeeded in another area? Maybe you quit smoking, for example. I can totally imagine that a quit smoking coach would be a thing, because stopping smoking is really challenging, and many people are trying to do it and don't succeed. So that could really be an area. Coach people to their destination. Well, I guess you go back to the idea that the coach is a vehicle, but that was that was figurative, right? I'm not really a vehicle. I'm just helping someone get somewhere. So yeah, and this is actually the most frequent question that I get when I meet people. I used to meet people in real life. Now real life is canceled, so I only meet people in my work, for example, in those lives, or when students reach out to me, when they email me or contact me in some other way. But I do meet people on dating apps, and on dating apps is the place where this question has moved. Why are you a French learning coach? Why are you not a French teacher? What is the difference? And it's really interesting. Like, I was musing on that this morning because it's the first time that I actually sit down to list all, or to try and list all the differences. And I thought I would find, 5 or 6 differences, but I started listing them and then I couldn't stop, literally. So I found 11, there might be more. There might be more. And so I am the premier. I love that we wrote this word on my website. I am the premier French learning coach, because it's a bit weird to say that I'm the best at something in the world, but I know for a fact that I'm the first. As in, there was no French learning coach when I decided to become one. There was a couple of English learning coaches, that people who would help foreigners get better at English. I saw like 2 of those. And it was logical for me to think that there could also be that profession in the French learning world. But that was my own conclusion. And really, I created this profession because of one fact. And the fact is that traditional language learning hardly ever works the way that it's intended. And probably you've had this experience in your French learning journey, or perhaps in your journey of trying to learn another language. It's a tricky thing to do if you're trying to use Duolingo or to use like traditional courses. It hardly ever works the way it's intended. But at the same time, so many people do learn foreign languages and become fluent, even every day. Like, it's not rare. I know so many people who have successfully learned foreign languages, and I did it 5 times myself. And often it's done outside of any traditional learning path. For me, learning English, I did learn English in school. That was really where I mostly learned English. Also, I learned a lot on my own, for sure. But I could say I could take a traditional path towards learning English. But for learning German, for example, I tried everything for 10 years and it didn't work. And it's only when I moved to Austria, and it's not because I moved, it's because I had no choice. That was the reason. And I just somehow managed to learn it. It was kind of traumatic. I don't recommend doing it the way that I did. But the fact is that the way that I learned German was completely outside of any framework that was created by someone else, because those frameworks very often don't work. Not always, but very often. And so what I thought to myself is, okay, is it possible to break down why those people succeed? Like, what makes someone succeed at learning a language? For example, myself, I mean, I was born a French monolingual, and I was a complete monolingual. I mean, I started learning English when I was 10. I think I was able to have a conversation at the age of 14 or 15, but until that point, that was my one language was French. And then I managed to learn another 5 languages. So it's totally possible to learn a language to fluency. It's just not really done the way that you would think that it's taught in school or in traditional school teaching. So the whole idea is that we can understand what makes the people succeed, and then we can help others achieve the same results, but it's not actually possible to do it with the traditional teacher mindset. It really takes a new paradigm, and that is the reason why I decided to become a French learning coach, and why I have been doing that for the past 5 years. And I've never actually made a list before. This is the first day that I make a list of all the possible differences that exist between a coach and a teacher. And it's a long list. It's a little bit artificial because some teachers are just really, really, really good at coaching. Like if you have a teacher that's really good, that has managed to inspire you to learn and has taught you very well, and you have had so much great results with a teacher, in not necessarily in French or in a language, but in any area, then that's probably because that teacher was very inspiring and was actually coaching you. And on the other hand, there could be a person who calls themselves a coach, but who's not really, really good at getting you results. And then that would be the overlap in the other area. So there will definitely be some overlaps, but I'm striving to really define what constitutes a coaching relationship and what constitutes the relationship that you have with a teacher. And know that some teachers are just really, really good at coaching, and that's when actually they will be successful at teaching you. The reason why I decided to become a coach rather than staying a teacher is actually something I learned in university, is that languages cannot be taught, they can only be learned. So what you do as a teacher, and that was what I learned in university back when the concept of French learning coach was not even a thing. You can only facilitate the students' learning. You cannot force them to learn. You cannot actually teach them. You are just a facilitator. So that will really be the standard, like the main difference is that a teacher would not really be mindful of this. They would just follow some sort of program and are under the impression that they can teach. And sometimes if the student doesn't learn, they might even blame the student, while the coach would be like, okay, I cannot actually teach. This is not me imprinting something on the student. This is me helping the student learn. So this is the main difference. And this is something I learned in university, which is spoken about very extensively in the research on language learning, but is completely forgotten. The moment you step out of the university, you enter a language school, it goes out the window, you forget about it, and that's when you fall back into that teacher mindset, which is, if you're a really, really good teacher, you won't have too much of that mindset. And if you're not a really good teacher, you will have a lot of it. And that's when you become completely mindless and your students will have haphazard results. So I've got all sorts of comments here. Linda's saying she got great results with the physical coach training. That's great. My trainer specialized in broken people, so he knew exactly what I needed. Awesome, that's perfect. Oh, and Connie is here. Hey, hi, Connie. Nice to see you. So let's see what kind of differences I have seen. So first, the first difference that I noticed is that a coach often referred to their student as a client. Personally, I use those two words indifferently. The thing is that my client is the person that hires me, so that's why they're called a client, but they also study with me. So I really use those two words. While a student will call their student a student, or sometimes a pupil in British English. So the client hires the coach on purpose, willingly, to produce a particular result. That is really like the essence of coaching. You are hired, I am hired as a coach to help them reach a particular result. Typically, it means becoming fluent in French and being able to perform in French in their in all the areas that they need to perform in French. So often it's in their work, but sometimes it's in their daily life if they're going to live in France or in a French-speaking country. Sometimes it's to speak with family or to speak with colleagues. So there can be a number of reasons, but the person who is hiring me knows that they're hiring me for this results. While on the other hand, a teacher, often the students go to class and they learn some language, sometimes not even on purpose. I mean, it can happen. For example, my own sister is a primary school teacher, and she also teaches some English as part of her primary school teaching duties. The students haven't really asked for the program. They just kind of come and sit there, and hopefully they have a good time. But if they don't, it's okay, because it's not exactly really what it's about. So that's a big difference here. Another difference is, of course, what the coach or teacher is called. The coach is called the coach, the teacher is called the teacher. Sometimes a coach may refer to themselves as a teacher or even tutor, and they might reject the term coach. So at the beginning, I said that if a teacher is really, really good, it's probably because they're really good at coaching you. But some people will not adopt the term coach. It's also a bit, like I said, it's a bit doesn't have a great reputation these days, the term coach, because everyone's a coach nowadays. And so, I mean, I'm not going to go back to that ramble, but some people will not want to use the word coach for themselves, but might be actually coaching. So that's possible. But if they fit more the definition that I'm giving here of coaching, then you can consider that your teacher is really a coach in disguise, right? And meanwhile, the teacher, a person who's actually just teaching, will almost never call themselves a coach. And if they do, they'll be completely out of integrity. And they may even reject the idea of coaching or not understand what it's about or not think that it works better than traditional teaching. So teachers often will not be very mindful of all the stuff that I teach here on this channel, not just today, but on every other single video. They may just not deal with this part, like not deal with mindset, not deal with strategy, not deal with shortcuts or things like that. They may just stick to a program and teach that because it's what they've always done. So that really is a big difference in mindset here. One area that I find is really critical is the expertise. So like I was saying, the client is hiring the coach. Often who is hiring the teacher is not the student, it's someone else. So the coach is hired by the client. Typically, it's for a very specific expertise. So my expertise is to help English speakers become French speakers. I like to say that I specialize in hopeless cases because I'm the only person I know who's crazy enough to create a curriculum for every single student where there is actually no class or no curriculum that exists. So that is also part of why my expertise is really specific. It's something I've learned to do originally as part of my master's degree in language teaching, but then I have refined it over the years, and I use a particular framework, a particular method that's called the roadmap to fluency, and that is what I use to really draw the map for a particular student. That's my expertise. A different coach will have a different expertise. So, for example, you can find on my channel an interview with Alex Barron from French in Plain Sight. And his expertise is to help English speakers who live in France. So his work will only really be efficient if you live already in a French-speaking country and you're a native English speaker. That's what he specializes at. And it's really important to understand that if you want your coaching to function, to work, you need to hire a coach who has the expertise in doing what it is, or like in helping people do what it is that you want to do. And that is not the case with a teacher. Teachers often have an expertise that's a lot broader and a lot less deep. And that was definitely my case when I was working as a teacher myself. I had lots of stuff that I knew how to do, but I really didn't have one thing that I specialized in. Like right now, I'm absolutely like 100% specialized in helping English speakers become fluent in French, with fluency being defined as all the stuff that they want to do. But when I was working as a teacher, I was working with native German speakers, native Spanish speakers, native speakers of really any language. I mean, I've worked with Chinese native speakers. I've also taught other languages. I've taught Spanish at some point. I've taught Esperanto quite a lot. I've taught English to French speakers. Teachers tend to have a much broader skill set, but they don't go very deep. So often they're also less sought after because of that. Like a coach can be very sought after because they have this very pointed experience. And for me, it's important to have a broad basis and also have one area which I specialize in, because it's really, it's not very efficient for a language coach to have just one specialty and no general knowledge. General knowledge is really important. But yeah, a teacher will often have a lot of broader thing that they can teach, also because they're often hired by schools, sometimes by the parents of the students, and it's different. They're just not hired by the students themselves to have one particular result. So they will be able to do more things, but do it less well. Typically, a teacher have degrees, and this is considered enough, while a coach may or may not have degrees. I mean, you know me, you know that I have a master's degree in language teaching and an English bachelor's and a degree in classical literature. I studied all those languages, Latin and Greek and all that stuff. but that's not really what my work is based upon. Well, except for my master's degree as a part of what I base my work upon. But then, I got it, 10 years ago, my master's? Yeah, 11 years ago. I'm getting old. And so it's not what I base most of my work upon. Like, there's a basis, which is my master's degree, but then there's also everything I've learned as part of my personal growth and my own continued education. A lot of teachers do not do any continued education at all. Some of them have got their degrees 40 years ago, and they're still teaching based on what they learned 40 years ago. And many schools consider that this is enough. Some school will even consider that native is enough of a qualification. I think this is terrible, because being a native of a language does not mean that you can teach it. I know plenty of French people who would never be able to do the work that I can do, even if they also speak English very well. It's just, yeah, like the way they're qualified is typically not very relevant to the exact thing that they want to do. And they're mostly hired, I wrote that as mostly hired for their degree and their capacity to show up on time. It's a little bit mean, but the fact is that finding a competent teacher is random. Like, there are plenty of competent teachers that are amazing. I'm not really not trying to trash talk teachers here. Like, there are so many amazing teachers in the world. But if you're competent as a teacher, it does not depend on what the school wants you to do. It's your own integrity and your own competence. And if another person is not competent in the same position as you are, well, they are free to be not competent, because they are not paid on results. That's the difference. So we got a few comments that I want to read through here. Lina's saying, when I was a teacher, the number of students I had an impact. Oh yes, that's actually my next point. The number of students had an impact. I had 150 kids, so I couldn't give much individual attention. If you were passing, you weren't my problem. I didn't have the time to coach a C student for a B, for example, although I could have liked to do that. Actually, yes, that's my next point. So the number of students, a teacher typically teaches in group. If they are teaching one-on-one, they're often called a tutor. So that's the difference here between teacher and tutor. And they can have up to hundreds of students in one classroom. Like, it can be pretty bad. I mean, in French universities, it's not rare to have 800 students in one lecture hall and have the teacher give a language class. And we try not to do that, but sometimes it still happens. Meanwhile, a coach has a small number of students. So like Linda is saying, if I had 150 clients, I could not give them individual attention. The reason why I can't give them individual attention is because I have 9 clients right now and I'm overbooked. I'm supposed to have only 7 spots, but I didn't pay attention. 7. But I didn't pay attention. I just had several clients come in at the same time. I said yes to everyone. And after they were all signed up, I was like, oops, I got 9 instead of 7. Happens. Originally, I thought I could have 10, and then I was like, 10 sounds like a lot. I will narrow it down to 7. I can say that 9 is really the maximum I can take, and I won't have ever more than 9 one-on-one clients. Now I have more in my program, the French Fluency Accelerator. And by the way, that's where you want to go if you want to work one-on-one with me in the future. You want to be in the French Accelerator first, because the students who are there will get first dibs to the coaching spots when they become available again. So that was like the plug here. But in a group coaching, I can have more. I'm actually creating those workshops in the French Fluency Accelerator so they can be used individually by the students. But that's a little bit different. It's a group course. It's not really coaching. And then when I hop on a call with my students, then I can do group coaching there. But it's not at all the same as one-on-one coaching. One-on-one coaching is going to be exclusive attention, lots of really, really paying attention to the students and have them reach their goals as fast as possible. So that's a big, big difference. Yes, teachers, even if they're good, are often just overwhelmed by the amount of students that they have. That is a serious thing that makes a big difference. I would not be as good with 100 students as I am with my 9 clients, no question. Connie's saying, Linda, do you think that's an American problem, or are all schools across the world overcrowded? I don't really know what goes on in other countries, says Linda. Where I was, in order to save money when someone retired, they didn't replace. They made class size bigger. They do that in France too. Sorry to break it to you. It's not an American problem. I don't know, like I've studied actually the difference between school systems. It seems that in the Sweden and Finland and Norway, they are better at it, and their school system just works better. But I don't know that it is really good. So it's most places in the world have this issue. He has been saying, I went to a Waldorf school in the Netherlands and no one stayed behind. No student didn't pass, lots of individual attention. That is really cool. So yeah, Netherlands, I guess, is probably close to the Scandinavian model. So same teachers for 7 years and more, and only 25, 35 students in the class. That's still a lot, though. I mean, in France, we have like around 30 students in the class, and it's really a lot. Connie says, can we move to the Netherlands? You can try. How many classes a day did they teach? Okay, so Linda says 30 students in a class, 5 classes a day, 150 students. This is standard. You have that in France. Sometimes you have 6 or 7 classes a day. This is just how it is in most countries. So if you're comparing what I do, one-on-one coaching, to the typical secondary education, in any country, it's not the same. I know why I have not become a secondary education teacher. That was actually what my parents wanted me to do. Like, my mother still does not know why I'm not doing that. I guess she'll never know. It's okay. I'm perfectly happy doing what I do, even if my parents don't understand it. Like, it's cool. So another thing that's different is the approach. So obviously, like we were saying, it also follows the fact that we have few clients means that we can also be very client-centered. We work for the client. Like, as a coach, I work for my client. My client is the person who hires me, and my job is to serve my client and accelerate their progress as fast as possible. Well, meanwhile, the teacher typically has an approach that is language-centered. It could be student-centered if you're very lucky. How to tailor my work to be student-centered is something that I learned in university. And it was not for coaches because there were no language coach at that time. It was for teachers, but it was for the teachers who were really advanced in just knowing how, like, where the research is headed, and where, like, what are the latest the latest thought process and the latest, not fashion, but you see what I mean, like the latest approaches in language learning. That is something that honestly I've only used twice in my life. The first time was when I was working at the Vienna School of International Studies. So that's a really advanced university/school. It's a school that trains diplomats and head of states and secretary of states and these kind of people. So like these kind of people, for their training, do get that kind of actually really good expertise from their teachers. That was the first time that I used this. That was actually listed as part of my master's degree. It counted as my professional practice. And the second time that I'm using it is now. And all the other places that I worked at, all the schools, language schools, state schools, I mean, I must have worked in more than 10 schools. None of them made me do that. So you'd have to be very lucky to have a teacher who's using this, because even the people who have learned it mostly don't use it. Also, it's very important, I mean, I've said it already, but it's important to remember that your teacher typically works for someone other than the student. So either they're hired by the school, like a private school or a government school. It's kind of the same, it's an institution, it's not working for the student. Sometimes working for the student's parents, if they're a tutor and they're hired by the parents, but the person who pays them is not the student. And that does make a big difference, because of course, if you are pretending to serve the students, but you're actually paid by someone else, you automatically have some sort of conflict of interest. You have to serve the agenda of someone other than the student. And sometimes it aligns and it's not that bad. Like, I'm not saying that it's like evil, but you have to think of these things and take them into account, because if you don't, that's when you just work mindlessly and you might not know what you're actually doing. And it's a bit appalling to see the number of teachers who don't really have any idea what they're doing. I've seen many of them. I'm not saying it's widespread. There are many teachers who are amazing and just really, really love their students and try to do the best for their students and are actually listening to their students. Because if you want the best for your students, but you don't listen to their problems, I'm sorry, but you're not actually doing the best for them. If you're actively listening to your students and seeking to help them, then that's when you're a wonderful teacher. But like I said, it's kind of random. It's not really something that is built in the system. It will depend on you as a person. So this live is similar to coaching versus teaching. If you had 30 people in here, you couldn't respond to each other's, and I wish you had more watch, but I like your cozy group. Yeah, this is true. I mean, I can, and actually, I digression, but I think it's something that's holding me back from growing my channel right now, because I really appreciate to be able to answer every single comment. And when this channel will be 10 times the size, it won't be as easy for me to be super cozy and to answer every single question. But I'll get there. I mean, I'll work on it. It's something that I have to wrap my mind around. It's like my own personal growth at this moment. I appreciate to have few students, but I also understand that if I hold myself back and I I keep my channel and the cozy group small, that's a lot of people out there who are not getting the teaching. So I'll get over it. It's just takes some work. I'm on it. I'm working on it. So that was the approach. Then of course there is the speed. It follows that if you have like the coaching approach, you work for the student, for the client. We have a small number of clients and you really focus on them, then it will be a lot faster. I mean, it's not uncommon for my students to reach the goals that they have within a year or less. Meanwhile, if you're learning in the traditional school system, you might never ever get fluent. Like, let's be honest, if you're learning the way that school tells you to learn and you don't know anything outside of school, you'd have to be lucky, or you'd have to be in a really good school to make it. So so it's a lot faster, of course, and it follows, of course. If you have if I have 9 students or nine clients, and a student has 150, a teacher has 150 clients or students, of course it's a lot faster, no question. Then there's the cost. Of course, it follows that if I have only 9 clients and I have to live off those 9 clients, they will have to pay a lot more money than the 150 students that are in the school, or also the government. Like typically, if you join a teacher, a French class, it will be a lot cheaper than if you hire a one-on-one coach, because there are more students, they can afford to have less cost. And also often it might also be the school or the government that determines the teacher's pay, and not really the result of the teacher. So all of that means that the cost will be more expensive for coaching than for teaching. And also means that the income of the coach versus the teacher is going to be not the same as well. So the income of a coach is typically tied to their results. So if my students or my clients trust me, then I'm going to make more money. It follows, right? If people don't trust me and don't hire me, I'm not making any money. So if a coach is good, they might make a lot more money than a teacher. While for a teacher, their income is typically not tied to their results at all. And their income is often consistent no matter how many students they have. For example, my sister, when I speak to her and I tell her, she asked me last time, how is it going? I was like, oh, it's great. I'm overbooked. I have all of those clients. And she was like, yeah, I also have all those students in my class, but it doesn't make any difference for me. She has the same salary month after month, no matter what happens. Some people like that. I mean, in my family, it's supposed to be the highest thing you can do is to have this job where you can never be fired and you have the same salary every month after month. I don't think it's fun. I think I like safety. I'm very much about safety, and I seek to keep my income consistent with my business, but I love having my own business and being my own boss. Also, a teacher can never make as much money as a good coach can. It's not possible. I mean, their income does not change. Like, they could be excellent, it would not change their income. So yeah, no matter how good they are, they can't make as much money as a good coach can. Sometimes teachers are paid by the hour by language schools. That's honestly the worst situation I've ever been in. If you're in that situation, I pity you, or I feel for you. It's really annoying. I've been there. I'm hopefully never going back to doing that, because it's not a situation that you want to be in. Often you are underpaid. It's not great. And of course, if your teacher is being underpaid and overworked, they're not going to do a great job. Like, a coach can do a great job because they're being paid enough for the amount of work that they have. So that is also part of the differences. Another thing that I have listed is responsibility and commitment. So as a coach, I do put a lot of thoughts into what's the commitment and what's the responsibility, what's my responsibility, what's the student's responsibility. So I have a document which is 2 pages long that each of my one-on-one client has to sign, and it's called the student and coach commitment. And it's really explaining exactly what I commit to doing and what they have to commit to doing. So the coach is responsible for fostering the best possible environment and empowering the student to learn in the best possible way. But also the student is committed to showing up and getting their results and following the plan and reporting when something goes wrong, and so on and so forth. So the commitment is something really important. Like I was saying last week, if there is no commitment or if the commitment is wacky, you're not going to get the best results. So that's why in coaching, commitment is really an important thing. On the other hand, on the side of the teacher, there's typically not a lot of thought put into it. I've never put any thought into commitment before I became a coach. When I was teaching in all sorts of schools, I was like, okay, I guess this is my job. I'm just going to do it. Mostly showing up on time and opening the book and teaching whichever part of the language I've decided to teach this way or whatever is on this program at this point. But it's typically not built into the system. So if a teacher is really good, they will empower their student. If they are not good, not only they will not empower their students, but they might even disempower them. And it's unfortunately something that I've been seeing a couple of times when I was working with typically older teachers. I mean, it has nothing to do with age, but it just sort of happens that when you're young and you're freshly out of university, you tend to have more drive than if you've been sitting in a position for 40 years. And if you've been sitting in a position for 40 years and you're good, it still works very, very well. But if you've been sitting in a position for 40 years and you were not very committed in the beginning, at the end, you're not committed at all. So again, it's something that's random. So let's see. Linda's saying, I agree with you. And there's all kind of drama, politics, and infighting that you have to deal with working at a school district. Oh, tell me about it. I actually didn't write that down, but none of that as a coach. Yes, this is difference number 12. I hadn't wrote it down, but yes, when you are a teacher, you have to worry about lots of things that are not the results of your students. While me being a coach, I have to worry about two things. One, the results of my students, and two, how my business is doing. And it's closely tied together. Like if my students are not doing well, my business is not going to do well. Like if my students are being disempowered or feeling bad or demotivated or they want to quit, they quit and then I don't have a business anymore. So it's really one goal. So yes, that's the difference. Like if you're a teacher, you'll have to worry about things other than the well-being of your students, and that is going to make things complicated. OMG, yes, some of my classmates and I still talk about the horrible fourth grade teacher we had. Oh well, tell us about it. That sounds like you want to tell more. And meanwhile, I'm going to go through the last two things that I have. So the second to last thing I have listed here is a teaching program. So what's on the menu, right? So with teachers, especially in schools, even in language schools, it's typically some sort of generic, and generally it's created by someone else. So when I was working as a teacher, I had a book, I was following the book, that was it. And I didn't love it, but that was what I was supposed to do, so I did it. I love what I'm doing now a lot more, which is, as a coach, the program is tailored to fit the result that the student wants. So in my case, I tailor the program to each single student. So there's the roadmap to fluency, which is the process that I go through, and then each roadmap is created individually for the student. There could be a coach who has more of a set program. So for example, I know that Alex has more of a set program because his students have the same goals. So it's different from my situation where I really look into the goals individually. Some coaches will have one goal that they want you to achieve, and then if your goal is the same that the coach wants you to have, then that's when you can hire them, right? But for me, it's really just I specialize in helping my students achieve their goals. But again, English natives, and I'm teaching French, and it's for their own particular goals. So that's a bit different from other coaches here. But overall, the program is tailored for a particular goal. That's the thing we have in common. And personally, I only refer to books as I see fit in a particular case. So I can show you those two books. Those are the books that I use the most. Grammaire progressive du français. If you're in the French Accelerator, program, you know that we refer to those books all the time because they're really the books that help you know the French grammar. But whenever I give exercises, for example, today I believe I gave exercises to 3 different people, and there were different pages in the book because they were based on what those people needed at that time. So I really pick out the pages of the book very individually, and that's completely different from what I would have done as a teacher, which would have been showing up in front of a class and opening the book at a particular page. And like, okay, this is where we're at. This is what we're doing today. All 30 of you, and no one gets a different menu. So that's a big difference in the teaching program. And the last thing I have on my notes today is their own self-improvement. So typically, a teacher has no need and sometimes no drive for self-improvement. So it might happen on a case-by-case basis. You can find a teacher who's absolutely passionate about their own personal growth, and they will be investing in their own growth. And when I say investing, it could be money or energy or time, just really committing to their own growth. And I have seen teachers who do that, and I've also seen teachers who do not do any of that. And it's not really relevant to their profession. Of course, if they do improve themselves, then they will also improve their work because it goes hand in hand. But again, it's random. It depends on the personality of the teacher. It's not fostered by the system that they work in. Meanwhile, a coach will have to commit to their own self-improvement and to improving their own method. And honestly, if you stumble upon a coach who has no commitment to their own self-improvement and who doesn't have a coach of their own or a mentor of their own, who is not following some sort of course at any given time, that means they're a little bit out of integrity. Like, let's be honest, you can't be a good coach if you are not seeking to improve yourself and get better at what you are doing. Between when I started this practice 5 years ago, and I think I chose the title French learning coach like 4 years ago, and now I have considerably improved myself, my skills, my social skills, my communication skills, my empathy skills, my capacity to hold a safe space, my personal knowledge, my knowledge of French, my knowledge of English. I have created 16 workshops, I believe, in the French Fluency Accelerator, and each of those workshops that I created have helped me refine my own expertise of not only French, but also helping English speakers learn French. And all of that is things that I just keep improving for myself. And if a coach is not doing that, are they really a coach? Because it's what this is about at the end of the day. It's about personal growth and self-improvement. And you cannot really guide others on a self-improvement journey if you are not on that journey yourself. That's at least how I feel about it. Now, this is my opinion that I've shared today. It might be different for another coach. It could be interesting to go and ask another coach what they think the differences are. And maybe we could go ask Alex, because it's just, the number 2 French coach, and he's the deuxième French coach, I guess. Not necessarily in fame, because he's actually doing very well with his social media. I think at this point we can safely say that he's much more famous than me, but he created his practice after I created mine, so that's why. And I'm sure there are more, but I just haven't really stumbled upon them. There seems to still be some resistance among French teachers, no matter how good they are, to call themselves coaches, perhaps because, I don't know, the term is not very beloved everywhere. But I do think that it's the best term, even though in French we don't actually have an equivalent to coach. We just use the word coach in French. So yeah, we do have another 15 minutes after left before it's 8 p.m. So I'm going to read those new comments. If you have any question, if you have anything you'd like me to speak about, if you have any I don't know, perhaps issues with one of my courses that you've taken, or anything that has crossed your mind, or anything you'd like me to speak about, please use the comment section. Now is the time that we can answer all the questions that you might have. And by the way, I wrote down for next week that we can speak about how to find resources for your daily French bath, or finding the resources for your French practice. That will be the topic for next week, unless we find something better. But I think it's an interesting topic, and perhaps it will be a bit more followed than the topic we had today. I would have expected a few more people today. I see there's not a lot. It's only my usual fan base, which I'm so grateful that you guys are here. This is amazing. Also, next week we will be back on the regular schedule. I mean, this was always the regular schedule for me. It's it's at 7 p.m. for me until 8 p.m. But there was always those 2 weeks every semester between your daylight, the American daylight saving time and the European daylight saving time, which is weird. But this Sunday, my time is changing again, so it will be back at 1 p.m. Eastern and 10 a.m. Pacific. So I hope that the people who have gone lost those 2 weeks will be back next week. Right. So let's see. Linda says there's a list, though, but the worst thing was she used to make. You're speaking about the teacher, right? The worst thing was she used to make fun of us if we answered incorrectly. This is the worst. Like I didn't really want to list those kind of things, but like it's what I meant with they might disempower the students. Like if a teacher is shaming you or making fun of you, this is the worst. Like why do people do this? Like why? Like it's. I know they probably just don't know what they're doing, but it's horrible, and I've seen it being done. Like when I was a French teaching assistant, I've seen 2 or 3 teachers do that like on the regular. They were just horrible with the students, and yeah, it was bad. It was really bad. We were 9, so 9 years old, I guess, not 9 students. So many of us just would not volunteer to answer in class for years after. Yeah. So was that for disempowering, right? I mean, you literally teach people that if they try to take action, they will be made fun of. This is horrible. Like don't do that. Like if you're a teacher, I mean, of course, I'm pretty sure no teacher would listen to this and then do something like that because they would just not be here, right? They would not have no interest in listening to another teaching guy on the internet. Like they would on their free time. Like if you're a teacher and you're listening to this, I know that some teachers follow me and they like to get some insights or information or ideas from what I say. Those teachers who are following me are not the teachers that you're mentioning, Linda. Like it's like I said, there are a lot of amazing teachers who are constantly improving themselves and constantly seeking to help the students. And those would be the ones that would be here. And then you have those teachers who don't really care and just show up and read from the book. And those teachers would not be listening to this kind of YouTube stuff. Like, no way. It's completely different population. So Connie is saying, growing up, I could never learn how to diagram a sentence, so I did book reports for extra credits in order to pass the class. If the school set it up that these issues were addressed, I might know how. Oh, okay, so I think you're referring to linguistics. I think that's what you mean with diagram a sentence. But maybe I'm wrong. I'm not exactly sure what you mean with that. I learned to do diagrams of sentences in linguistics class in university. That's the only thing that I can think of. But if you can clarify that, that would help. These issues, not this issue. See, I need more grammar lessons. Yeah, well, actually, if you're not sure about your English grammar, that might be the reason why French grammar is difficult for you, because it depends. But often, if English grammar is already challenging, it can be really challenging to also learn French grammar. Often, the best way to deal with that is just to learn it through immersion. So you do a lot of daily French bath, and you will grasp some of the grammar. Although typically not all of it. It's a bit hit or miss, but it might be the best way to improve for you. Just read some French, listen to some French. Linda saying, I know how, but it's something I've never ever used. It's just sort of a fun thing to know how to. Okay, so you'll have to show me what that is because I'm not exactly sure what that is. Linda saying again, for me, the word coach evokes someone who is working with me on what I specifically need. Teacher doesn't make me think of that. Yes, absolutely. That's exactly what this is about. So the coach is hired by the student or by the client and working on exactly what the client wants. And that's really like, for me, being a coach is very comfortable because it helps me be in integrity at all times. I'm never pursuing 2 different things. I'm always pursuing only one thing. When I'm sitting with one client, I'm working with that one client. When I'm correcting the homework of one client, I'm working for them. When I'm preparing their sessions, I'm working for them. And when I'm doing something which is not client work, like being here on this live, I am working in order to help the people that I work for. So in this case, it's you watching this. But it's always seeking to help English natives or English speakers at least who are learning French and helping them get fluent as fast as possible. And it's the only thing that I do. And of course, you could argue that I have a business side of my work, and it would be correct that I'm have seeking to grow my business and to grow my YouTube channel. But at the end of the day, the way to grow my business and my YouTube channel is by helping more English natives become fluent in French. So it's always the same goal. And it's very comfortable for me to be doing this work as opposed to work in a school where I could have different goals. I could try to be serving my students in class, and then there would be some politics going on, and I would have to pass whichever inspection, and I would have to write like whichever report, and yeah, I'm so much better off with my work now. Like, not to brag, but this is going well. I really love doing this. I still don't understand why my parents think I would be better off working in a school. I guess it's their problem. I mean, it totally is their problem. So yeah, it's that's in a nutshell the difference. So Connie is saying French music is creating more problems for me. Oh, what are they doing? There's a song called Mes Emmerdes. Yes, I think I know which song it is. The song, for instance, is My Troubles. My cows? What? Okay, I'm gonna need more context here. I don't know what or how to check on a sentence. Is the order the sentence is written in? Okay. So mes emmerdes, you can translate it as my troubles or my problems. That is what it means. If it says my cows, the translator is messing with you, Connie. I have no other explanation. It's I have mixed feelings about Google Translate because it's a tool that you can use for some things, but often if you try to use it as part of language learning, it's going to backfire on you. But if you can give more context, I would love to sort this out. Yasmin says, spelling is my pet peeve. I love spelling, especially grammatical spellings, because lexical spelling I struggle with because I don't have that much of a visual memory. So I can only know how the word is spelled if I know the grammar or if I know the etymology of it. But I still like spelling. Okay, Linda's saying, show Connie how to break up the sentence to show the categories of the word and how they read. Oh, that's got to be this thing called analyse en constituant immédiat. I think it's what you're referring to. I swear it says my cows. I'll send you a screenshot. Yes, please do send me a screenshot. Like, what the hell? What's going on with that? My cows. Co is vache in French. I mean, I can write it in the comments. I cannot imagine how that would happen. I mean, you have la vache, which would be an explanation, but it would not really translate as trouble or as emmerde in any way. Yeah, please do send me a screenshot. I'm curious now. All right, does anyone have another question or something I can help you with while I'm here? I can remind you for the 50th time that I do not have any spot for one-on-one coaching, which is a bit of a weird situation to be having this topic about the differences between a coach and a teacher, while I don't have any spots available that I can promote to you guys, but it's okay. I hope that this live or this video has been useful to you. I think it would be a useful video to send to people in the future, or like for people to find out what are the differences between the teacher and the coach if they're confused. So I hope that will help, or that can help other people in the future as well. Yeah, if you want to have the best chance to work one-on-one with me in the not so far away future, please join the French Fluency Accelerator, because the spots will be advertised first to the people in the community there. So that's where you want to go. And otherwise, you can use my courses, like the French Life Launchpad is the core of my coaching method put in a course, so you can do it for yourself and you don't have to either wait for a spot or pay the coaching fee, which, as we said in the differences today, can be pretty expensive. So the French Life Launchpad is a nice place to start if you want to get started with this method at your own pace. All right, so at least it's not a basket of donkeys. I'm not sure what you're referring to with a basket of donkeys. Can you elaborate? Oh, I also joined it because we have fun. The French Accelerator. Yes, it was fun yesterday. So yesterday we had the latest live class, and it was about a baby that was found in an airport in Paris and her quest to find who she is, or like where she is from. And then we had a lot of fun speaking about how identity is built and what makes a national identity in different countries. was pretty cool. We had new students too. It was nice. And yeah, we have a Facebook group in the French Fluency Accelerator, which is a little bit more active than the French Fluency Together group, because that group, I think, is dead. It was useful for the live, but now we have moved this live here because it's just so much more enjoyable to be here. So yeah, we can still use that group, but it's not like, I'm not honestly sure if Facebook groups are going to still have a life. But the French Fluency Accelerator, like, you can always go there, go to the group to ask questions and seek feedback from other students and from me at any day of the week. So not just Mondays and not just in this 1 hour. So there's that. Okay, that other song that Linda made fun of me on about Facebook. Oh, I saw that. I couldn't actually reply to you on that post because we weren't friends at that time. So that's when I actually asked you and I sent you a friend request, but then I lost it. If you want, you can tag me there. And oh, par les temps qui courent. Le temps qui court was the thing. And I can imagine that how le temps qui court, temps qui, that sounds like donkey, kana. So I guess that's what you heard. That's what you heard. Right. What was it really? Temps qui court. Yes, le temps qui court. So it's the time that runs. In English, you say the time that flies. In French, we say the time that runs. You're not Facebook official. Yes, thank you for adding me. This is cool. All right, we have a couple more minutes. So if you have any question, if you have something you want to know about French, the question you never dared to ask or whatever, I'll be happy to answer them. Just let me know. And thank you, ladies, for being here. It's really the core of the group today. I think the others had either have got lost or they were like, I don't really want to hear about this topic. Next week, we'll speak about how to find resources for your daily French BAF. It's a really interesting topic. If you're in the French Accelerator or the French Life Launchpad, you probably know everything there is to know about it already because it's the, I believe, third module, which is about, no, wait. It has to be the second module because the third one is about the routine. And in order to set up your routine, you have to have your resources first. But anyway, there's one of the first 3 modules in the French Accelerator and one of the 3 modules in the French Life Launchpad is about finding your resources. And of course, that module is a lot more complete and thorough than what I can possibly do in a live here, where, I don't have my slides. I'm just going to speak about the topic. But if you have been in the French Life Launchpad or in the French Accelerator and you have any question about that topic, it's a good idea to come by next week so we speak about it. And by the way, now would be a good time to watch this workshop again this week and see if you have questions, because that would be the perfect time to ask questions. So if you got some free time this week, please watch the workshop about resources if you're in the French Accelerator or the French Launchpad, so that you can bring your questions or you can bring your comment, and then we can have more of a discussion next week about the finding resources for your French BAF or for your French study in general. Linda's saying we're going to be here anyway. Cool. That's going to be amazing. Yasmin is looking forward to those weekly live. Awesome. So next week, back on the regular schedule, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. And Linda says, like seeing all of you. Yeah, it's so nice to be seeing all of you every week. I just love to be talking to you. All right. So if you don't have any question, I guess I'm going to dash. I'm pretty sure we haven't reached the 100 comments this time. It's just the topic was less activating for some reason. I tried to ask more questions, but sometimes it doesn't work as well. I'm still learning. But I hope that you had a good time anyway, and that you learned something today, and that you, yeah, tell me actually if you learned something. We got 2 minutes left. If you didn't learn anything, and I guess I failed. You can't succeed every time, right? Yeah, someone please tell me that you learned something. By the way, if anyone has watched the replay until now and they're not on Telegram, please join me on Telegram, join us on Telegram. The link is in the description. So Linda's saying she always learns something. Yasmin says I had some good points. All right, good. Well, I'm glad that this was useful. I'm glad that this video exists. Kelly says, I learned something. I always do. Cool, cool. I'm really glad that this is being helpful to you. I'm glad that this video exists, that we can point people to this video. Next time someone asks me, what's the difference between a French teacher and a French coach? I can be like, hey, there, 1 hour video about this topic. And they're probably not going to watch it because they just really want a really quick a really quick answer, but maybe I'll make a pre-recorded video when I summarize the points. I always want to make more pre-recorded videos, but for some reason I'm not finding the time right now because I'm already kind of packed. But I will do it. I'm knocking on wood. I'll definitely do it. I just need to find a way to organize my schedule. All right, so I'm almost on top of the hour. It was amazing to be here with all of you today. Thank you for being here. I'll see you next week at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. for us in Central Europe. Thank you guys, and see you next week. Have a good week. Bye.